for joining us. I want to spend some time exploring this New York Times report that Netanyahu and company plotted a coup in Tehran involving the former hardline president of Iran, Ahmadinejad. But before we get there, I want to ask you, can Donald Trump sue himself? I mean, to me, this agreement that Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, who should never, ever be the attorney general of the United States, is unconstitutional, unethical, and unenforceable.
Trump just has his hand in the kitty on everything. We have lost any semblance of the rule of law. It stinks so badly that even Republican senators are scandalized. And that goes a long way. Our political system has been corrupt for decades, but Donald Trump is without any constraint at all. He is enriching himself and his family, using government resources for absolutely not only personal benefit, but narrow partisan benefit. And it's the likes of which we've never seen in our country.
And the instrument for much of this is a very fine trial lawyer who has totally corrupted himself in an effort to induce the president to name him attorney general. But after his performance behind closed doors, so we only know what happened by a few senators that have leaked it, after his performance before the Republican Senate caucus 2 days ago, it would be hard for me to believe that he could be confirmed as attorney general. This guy will do anything the president asks, from indicting the former director of the FBI on a matter of free speech to indicting the former president of Cuba on a matter of government security. So let me ask you this. If a foreign or what you believe is a terrorist organized airplane is illegally over your airspace and you ask the plane to turn around twice and it doesn't turn around, of course you can shoot it down. Remember when the balloons were flying over the United States, we were going crazy, and then the Biden administration finally shot them down. They turned out to be nothing, but we had the right to do so. I'm not in favor of killing people, but doesn't the government have the right to do what Raul Castro is accused of having done?
What the Cuban government did was in defense, national defense. What Trump does is murder. He just kills people in boats in open waters without the slightest claim, the thinnest veneer of national security. So Trump's just an outright murderer. Cuba was acting in self-defense. We were horrified, rightly, that someone made an assassination attempt on U.S. government officials. It happened a short time after the United States deliberately assassinated the leadership of Iran. This is a strange situation. We are using words of law by gangsters in our side who commit far worse abuses than anything we're claiming of other countries. It's absolutely
when President Trump
out of control.
When President Trump in his first term dispatched CIA drones to kill General Soleimani, that was actually an act of murder. Soleimani was on a peace mission. He was in a country that was an ally of ours, Iraq. He was a general of a country with which we were not at war at the time, Iran. There was no lawful basis to assassinate him. Is somebody going to indict Trump for murder?
Well, this is what is happening. Our presidents are, in general, murderers. They order the assassinations or the killings of people that do not have any protection. There's no judicial claim or anything else. Trump does that regularly right now. But I would say that this kind of extrajudicial killing is part and parcel of American statecraft, at least in the 21st century, from George Bush Jr. to Obama, to Trump 1, to Biden, to Trump 2. But what's happened is it's become completely normalized, so that it's just normal that the president orders murder from the White House and the murder of the leaders of other countries, or the kidnapping of other countries' leaders, or now the indictment, which is a prelude to another U.S. regime change operation, which is underway in Cuba. So we have a gangster government. We have most leaders in the world afraid, because if they say something, the gangsters will go after them. So we have a lawlessness right now, which we've never seen before.
And
what
are they going to do?
It doesn't work. It doesn't.
So President Trump is going to send a bunch of beefy soldiers to kidnap a 95-year-old man in Havana?
We're within, I don't know, hours or days of another regime change operation. And again, it's blatantly, fundamentally illegal by any international standards, illegal by United States actions, but commonplace. If I could, I wanted to read everybody the reason why the UN was set up, knowing that we'd be talking about this topic. In the core purposes of the United Nations, it says all members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. This was we don't want another world war, and we don't want nuclear annihilation. So all member states, that includes the United States, actually, which really, once upon a time, set up the United Nations, shall refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. We're using it right now. We're about to overthrow Cuba. We've kidnapped and basically, in a conspiracy, taken over indirectly the government of Venezuela. We tried in a completely harebrained scheme of Trump and Netanyahu to do the same in Iran. Same plot, same idea. It's led to a worldwide disaster, as these madcap operations do. They're not just ludicrous, they're tragic in their outcomes. And the whole point of the United Nations was, stop doing this, for God's sake. But Trump is completely himself without any idea of law or restraint. He's told us that. He said the only restraint is his own decisions. That's all that counts. He's told us that. When he said that, we didn't say, oh, this man is not fit to be president of the United States, because that's a violation of his oath of office, a fundamental violation. Nobody said it. Where was the Speaker of the House? Where was the majority leader of the U.S. Senate? These institutions have become meaningless because these people do not understand or honor their oath of office. The gangsterism of Trump is clear, but what's amazing is how the people in his party, because they're so scared of him, because they put themselves above the country and above the Constitution, don't do anything about it. It's true. You do something, well, with this thug, until he's really brought to law, you may pay a price, like Massey did last week, the congressman who stood up and told the truth about Epstein and about many other things of Trump. You might pay the personal price, but Our country's at stake, for God's sake. This is really the point.
All right, I do want to get to this bizarre alleged plot involving former President Ahmadinejad, but before we do, I not to animate you, but to induce your response, I have to run a clip of President Trump 2 days ago on a tarmac, in which he says of Prime Minister Netanyahu, he says this twice, he'll do whatever I want him to do. And I'm wondering if it's really the other way around. But you tell me after you watch this. It's pretty brief and very direct. Chris, cut number 6.
What have you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Iran and how long to hold off on strikes?
He's fine. He'll do whatever I want him to do. He's very, very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do. And he's a great guy. To me, he's a great guy. Don't forget, he was a wartime prime minister. And he's not treated right in Israel, in my opinion.
Aside that he's a great guy, but will Netanyahu do everything Trump wants him to do, or is it the other way around? Will Trump do everything Netanyahu wants him to do?
Well, I think Trump is right. If Trump said to stop doing this, Netanyahu would have to stop doing it. The point that Trump is really making is that every illegal action, every illegal war, every completely bizarre scheme, Trump has signed off on. He's not a puppet of Netanyahu. He's just an idiot. Sorry.
What is your take on this New York Times piece alleging effectively that former President Ahmadinejad was co-opted by the Israelis and ready to be installed in place of President Pezeshkian, whom you and I have met and interacted with?
Well, I think that the point of the story is correct, and I was waiting to hear details like this. The point is the following, and again, I would like people to understand, if they don't know the history, U.S. foreign policy, going back to the creation of the CIA in 1947, is based on regime change. That means that the United States arrogates to itself the claimed right to decide who governs in other countries. And if the United States doesn't like who's governing because maybe they won't give an oil concession, or they won't allow a military base, or they won't pay a payback, or they won't give a bribe, or they won't let their territory be used for an insurgency against a neighboring country, then the CIA, which is a private army of the United States, arrogates to itself the right to bring down that government. What we're watching is this behavior. It's happened probably 100 times since 1947. Lindsay O'Rourke, the superb political scientist at Boston College, wrote a book about this about 8 years ago called Covert Regime Change. She was a PhD student of John Mearsheimer. She documented 64 regime change operations, mostly CIA, between 1947 and 1989. She pointed out that they're disasters. They lead to civil war. They lead to insurrection. They lead to continued unrest. They lead to boomerang effects on the United States. They don't work. But the CIA is a kind of madcap, completely unaccountable agency. A few presidents try to keep it a bit under control. President Kennedy tried the hardest, and he probably lost his life because of that effort. Trump just encourages it. So with Venezuela, we knew the story as it's told, that the valiant U.S. military went in and captured the president by surprise. Wasn't true. The stories that have now come out are that this was a regime change in Venezuela with a conspiracy between the CIA on the one side and elements that are now in power in Venezuela on the other side, who conspired to remove the president and then get a promotion themselves. And money, no doubt, changed hands as well. The Iranian operation was the same. They told us in the first day, there will be a new regime. It will be pliant to the United States. That operation failed. Then it was surmised that what the U.S. and Israel had supposedly meant was that they would kill a lot of people, including the religious leader and leaders of the government, and then there would be a public insurrection, and then the regime would change. That story never seemed right to me. I was waiting for the inside job, who they were going to put in place, how this coup was actually going to work. And I credit the New York Times with doing a good job of telling us what the real story was. Yes, Trump said, I'll pick the next government. He said it. He told us. This is not subtle. People need to listen. But then, now we know what they had in mind, which was that they were going to take a former president who was under house arrest and against the current government, and they were going to put him in place. And then they had to spring him from his house arrest, so they had to kill the guards around him. But it turns out, apparently, that they injured this guy as well. And so the plot failed right away. In the meantime, the whole world economy is reeling. Oil prices are $110 a barrel. Gasoline in the United States is $4.50 a gallon. The Straits of Hormuz are closed. Thousands have been killed. Tens of billions of dollars have gone because of this craziness. Now, when is that going to be made public and held accountable? Obvious answer, never. Never. There's no accountability. Gangsters aren't accountable. This kind of undeclared war, as your show leads in rightly every episode, this has become commonplace, just as it says. Nobody looks at this. The last time that one looked at the horrors under the covers of the CIA was 1975. It was called the Church Committee. Frank Church of Idaho, a brave man, looked and found out that it was far worse than anyone thought. That was 51 years ago. We've never had another look. So, yes, this madcap, crazy idea. And Trump is right. Netanyahu didn't tell him to do it. Netanyahu wanted to do it. Trump's an idiot enough to do it. The other presidents before him knew that this was crazy, but not Trump, because he doesn't understand. And so this is where we are. And the New York Times did a good job telling us in two good stories. One about the meeting with Netanyahu, the head of Mossad, and Trump, where they were the only three in the room that thought that this whole idea wasn't crazy. And then the second story that exposed just how completely crazy this whole thing is. But the mindset needs to be understood. The mindset is the United States shouldn't leave well enough alone. The United States shouldn't abide by any international law. The United States shouldn't abide by the UN Charter that it created. The United States should change governments when and where it wants. In Mexico, in Greenland, in Canada, in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Iran, you name it. That's our foreign policy, so-called. It's true. You look at Rubio, you know it can't be based on diplomacy, that's for sure.
Well,
this is where we are.
What has become of Ahmadinejad? Has he been arrested and executed? I mean, this is treason.
Well, probably they're not too humored by what happened. That I'm sure. We don't know, and we have no more information than I have no more information than what was given in that story. But the point is, what we're doing is nothing like what is discussed on the surface. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. It has nothing to do with international law. It has nothing to do with national law. Trump is enriching himself. He's enriching his friends. He has taken over the machinery of government, and our Speaker of the House and our Majority Leader are co-conspirators because they are silent, even though they are a co-equal branch of government. with the constitutional responsibility to stop this complete lawlessness. Of course, the Justice Department, once upon a time, the idea was that it was actually about justice. Now it's about Trump's complete use of the words of law to go after his enemies or his supposed enemies and to enrich himself and his friends.
Chris, I have one or two more questions for Professor Sachs, but I want you to change the title of this episode to Professor Sachs on Fire. Is the Strait of Hormuz open or closed? Are negotiations still going on? Or when Trump says, this is going to aggravate you because I think I know the answer, oh, we're getting close. Is he just manipulating the market again?
Yes, he is. We're not getting close by any sign whatsoever that we can see. We're in a situation that has been understandable from the second day. Once this madcap plot to put Ahmadinejad in power failed within the first minutes, the United States was trapped. The United States was trapped because the whole idea was not only illegal, reckless, but it was doomed to fail if this crazy plot wasn't successfully realized, which it was not, and it failed. So from the second day onward, Iran had retaliatory capacity and deterrent effect then. The United States could take military action against Iran, no doubt, but the result would be the destruction of the Middle East. The result would be the destruction of the world economy. So Trump threatens and blusters, but if he acts, we have what is now a very serious economic crisis. We have the calamity of the century. And probably someone has explained that maybe in slow, simple language to Mr. Trump, that you can't do it, that there is no option. They fired a lot of generals that apparently told Hegseth and Trump that, but the others that came in have been clear. So no, there's no military solution. Trump blusters, he threatens, but he can't do anything other than blow up the Middle East. So the Iranians say, we want our assets that you stole, the United States, which is true. We want them back. We want sanctions that were supposed to have been lifted 11 years ago when the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was signed, lifted. And the United States on the other side says, we're not doing any of that. You just hand over all your enriched uranium and you give up and surrender. And then Trump says we're close to a solution. Doubtful. Of course, I don't think there can be a negotiated solution, but I think that the obvious implication of that is simple. The United States should go home. Stop this craziness. The episode failed. Go home. It's over. It failed. Trump can declare it the greatest success in the history of the world. Who cares what he says? Go home. Stop this. Then the strait will open under Iranian control, but it will open because Iran has multiple reasons to open the strait once the U.S. is gone. That's the point.
Right.
So the resolution of this crisis is not hard, but it does not wait or have to wait for some negotiation on issues where the United States has zero credibility because it has bombed and killed the negotiators twice and ripped up an agreement 10 years ago that would have made all of this completely moot. And if the United States has no credibility, Mr. Netanyahu is an indicted war criminal, and his colleagues have recently been indicted as well by the International Criminal Court, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. That's just a completely lawless government. Trump is right. Let's take him at his word. He can tell Netanyahu what to do. So if Israel continues in this way, that's at Trump's bidding. Absolutely true. So we can solve this crisis today. Trump announces victory and goes home. That's all. That's all it would take.
Professor Sachs, thank you for being at one of your most eloquent times with us. These are very dangerous times in which we live, and you are able to cut right through it. Thank you very much, Jeff. Have a great weekend. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.
See you next time. Thanks.
For joining us. I want to spend some time exploring this New York Times report that Netanyahu and company plotted a coup in Tehran involving the former hardline president of Iran, Ahmadinejad. But before we get there, I want to ask you, can Donald Trump sue himself? I mean, to me, this agreement that Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, who should never, ever be the attorney general of the United States, is unconstitutional, unethical, and unenforceable.
Trump just has his hand in the kitty on everything. We have lost any semblance of the rule of law. It stinks so badly that even Republican senators are scandalized. And that goes a long way. Our political system has been corrupt for decades, but Donald Trump is without any constraint at all. He is enriching himself and his family, using government resources for absolutely not only personal benefit, but narrow partisan benefit. And it's the likes of which we've never seen in our country.
And the instrument for much of this is a very fine trial lawyer who has totally corrupted himself in an effort to induce the president to name him attorney general. But after his performance behind closed doors, so we only know what happened by a few senators that have leaked it, after his performance before the Republican Senate caucus 2 days ago, it would be hard for me to believe that he could be confirmed as attorney general. This guy will do anything the president asks, from indicting the former director of the FBI on a matter of free speech to indicting the former president of Cuba on a matter of government security. So let me ask you this. If a foreign or what you believe is a terrorist organized airplane is illegally over your airspace and you ask the plane to turn around twice and it doesn't turn around, of course you can shoot it down. Remember when the balloons were flying over the United States, we were going crazy, and then the Biden administration finally shot them down. They turned out to be nothing, but we had the right to do so. I'm not in favor of killing people, but doesn't the government have the right to do what Raul Castro is accused of having done?
What the Cuban government did was in defense, national defense. What Trump does is murder. He just